Why does Shunsui call his Bankai Ohanan? In episode 35 of the 1000-Year Blood War, we finally got to witness one of the most anticipated moments in all of Bleach. And many of the viewers who didn't previously read the manga already knew the full name of Shunsui's Bankai due to a crazy amount of viral edits that can be found online. Now, because its name is so popular, a bunch of fans started wondering why Kyoraku, when talking directly to his Bankai, refers to her as Ohana. Thanks to the first few words they exchanged, we already know it's sort of like a nickname Shunsui has for her. But what does it mean exactly? Well, the first kanji in Katen Kyokotsu is pronounced ka, and translated means flower. However, when used alone, that same kanji can also be pronounced as hana, and the letter O that sits in front of it is an old honorific a man would attach to a woman's name to show familiarity. Thus the name Ohana. Told you that Harabelle is stronger than you think, and here is why. Considering her performance in her fight against Hitsugaya, it's no wonder most people underestimate her powers. However, there are three crucial factors many tend to overlook. First, it was shown during their fight that both Hitsugaya and Harabelle can use one another's water attacks to cancel each other out. However, Hyorin Maru doesn't only control water but ice as well, which not only gave Hitsugaya an advantage over Harabelle, but also made him a perfect counter to her abilities. This leads us to the second factor. Do you remember Hitsugaya's ultimate move called Yoten Hyakaso? Yes, the pillar of ice that trapped Harabelle. Well, it was stated how this will finish her off by the time ability has taken full effect. Yet after she was freed from the ice, not only was Harabelle not dead, but she was unharmed, proving that even his strongest hacks couldn't really do anything to her. And finally, there was a very brief moment where Harabelle got mad and attacked Hitsugaya seriously. During the attack, she easily overpowered him, all while he was using his Bankai, and she didn't even release yet, which ultimately showcased the huge difference in their role. That Ichigo didn't actually have a Zanpakuto up until the 1000-Year Blood War arc. We all know that during Ichigo's stay in the royal palace, Oetsu forged him his true Zanpakuto. Many people assume that the blade he owned up to that point simply wasn't fully developed because his powers weren't either. And even though that's partially right, it's not the whole truth. Nemaya said that white, the hollow that Aizen created, was made in a similar way as his Asauchi, which is why Ichigo was able to materialize a Zanpakuto without previously owning an Asauchi. However, he also said how there is no Shinigami with a Zanpakuto that wasn't formed from an Asauchi that he created, with no exception. This implies that what Ichigo wielded only worked as a pseudo-Zanpakuto instead of a real one. Remember that the whole point of a Zanpakuto is to externalize the strength of one's soul, which is usually shown through some sort of a unique ability, which would explain why Ichigo's Shikai and Bankai had nothing like that other than Getsuga Tensho, which is actually not unique to him, but was rather inherited from his dad. And unlike his previous Bankai, it was heavily implied that Ichigo's true Bankai possessed a very dangerous ability, but I can't say anything more without spoiling too. Sui's first game make him invisible to Lilibara. We all know that Kyoraku's Shikai makes children's games a reality, which can make things pretty confusing at times to understand. However, the first game Shunsui played in his fight against Lilo was possibly the most mind-boggling yet. The name of this game is the Daruma Fellover, but you might know it by a different name, Red Light, Green Light. This game actually exists in almost every culture around the world, and the rules as explained by our lazy captain are pretty straightforward. One person is it, who in this case was Lila. That person has to stand in a visible spot to other players at all times, which is why when Shunsui started the game could see Lila from such a big distance. Now, the It's job is to spot the other players while they're moving in order to take them out of the game. However, every few moments they have to close their eyes and utter a certain phrase during which, for obvious reasons, they can't see the other players. The only difference being that in this case, Shunsui was the one reciting the phrase. So yes, the rules of the game imply that Shunsui was physically invisible to Lila during that time, which was pretty much confirmed through the latter's reaction when he could hear the former, but couldn't see where he was coming. That Hitsugaya used Kido on Rangiku whenever she would annoy him. We all remember when Momo attacked Gin in the Soul Society arc after Aizen's supposed death, which led to her getting imprisoned. Soon after, Rangiku delivered a letter to her that Aizen wrote before the whole ordeal. Due to the contents of said letter, Momo decided to escape the prison, and in order to do so, she used Hakufuku on the guard. In case you don't already know, Hakufuku is a Kido spell that makes the target feel disoriented and dizzy, which is followed by loss of consciousness and memory, similar to a hangover. Anyway, this is the exact same spell Gin used on Matsumoto to save her from Aizen much later in the story. However, what some fans found weird is that Rangiku knew the sensation after she woke up and recognized the Kido immediately, thus implying that she fell under its effect before. This was confirmed to be true by Kubo in a Q&A. Now, considering that this is a spell only Shinigami use, when exactly would she fall victim to it? Well, it was Hitsugaya that recognized the spell Momo used on the guard earlier, meaning that he's pretty experienced with it. And it was even in that very same chapter that Rangiku woke up in Toshiro's office without remembering much. So does that mean Hitsugaya uses this Kido on her whenever she wondered if there's a hidden connection between Kisuke Urahara and Senjumaru Shitara in Bleach? Let's explore this intriguing possibility. Urahara's Bankai, Canon Baraki Benhin Aratame, translates to modification of the Crimson Princess dissection. Interestingly, the word canon refers to Guanyin, the goddess of mercy, often shown with multiple arms. Meanwhile, Senjumaru's name means 1,000 arms. Coincidence? Or is there a deeper link here? Here's another twist. Urahara's Zanpakuto spirit is female, which is rare since they usually match their wielder's gender. Characters with opposite gender spirits, like Shunsui, Kenpachi, or Renji, often have emotional scars, but Urahara's past doesn't show any clear trauma. Senjumaru's a royal guard, and Urahara was was once the research head. Could their paths be secretly tied? What do you think? Pure coincidence, or a hidden narrative?